Welcome back to Trader Talk. I'm your host again, Dan Worth, and I'm joined with Neville Burdock from Sporting Index. How are you doing today, Neville?
Yeah, all good, thanks, Dan.
Good stuff. And again, we're blessed with another great weekend of Premier League fixtures, which I'm super keen to get your views on. I don't think there's anywhere else really to start other than the Merseyside derby. Everton hosting Liverpool after Liverpool's late win last night against Newcastle. What are your thoughts? It kind of seems like it's only one way for me, but I'm keen to hear what you think.
Yeah, so obviously, Everton Liverpool. It's the early Saturday kickoff this weekend. It's always a huge game for both sets of fans. I think there's a lot of interest for the neutrals in this one as well. I think both teams have had a fairly rocky start to the season. I know Liverpool have obviously they've had the 9-0 at Bournemouth at the weekend, and they got the late winner last night. But yeah, they've not been that impressive, I don't think. And obviously, Everton have struggled for a while now under Lampard as he sort of tries to rebuild their team. I think on the face of it, you would assume Everton do struggle against Liverpool here, even with the home advantage. I think I've watched a couple of Everton games this season, and I think that they look fairly tough to break down. I think they look a lot more organised this season. I mean, they haven't won a game yet in the Prem, but they're only losing by the odd goal when they lose, and they obviously drew quite a few games. I think for Everton to try and compete against Liverpool here, they're going to have to be quite physical and aggressive against them. That's the only way they can match them, really. So obviously, with that being said, the bookings market could be a market of interest. In a game like this, I think there were 7 yellows in both games last season, home and away. I think the bookings line is around over and under 4.5 yellow cards, which I think is about fair, and it's probably a nice bet for an interest if you're a neutral watching it. So as I say, I think Liverpool are obviously very likely winners here, but wouldn't rule Everton out putting in an improved performance.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, they don't need any more motivation than holding out or even beating their rivals. So I'm with you. I don't think the aggression side of things would be an issue for Everton. It's just keeping up with the likes of Salah and Diaz, which, I mean, I'm never too confident in their backline in the best of times, but especially coming up against those guys. And Liverpool, I mean, that Klopp's running around the training ground today talking about how they're mentality monsters after their win last night. I mean, despite the referee just playing on until they score a winner. I can only see it being a feisty affair, but as you said, I think it would be a great one for the neutral.
Yeah, I think I was sort of looking around at some who Everton are likely to have playing for them, and I think one of the individual players and sort of the to be shown a card market is this Everton's new signing Onana. I don't know if you've seen him play, but he's sort of quite physical and he likes to tackle. I wouldn't be surprised if he was sort of one of the Everton players to pick up a yellow card in this game, because obviously recent games they've dropped the likes of Haaland and Andre Gomez, who are the sort of the usual suspects for Everton for picking up yellow. So I think Onana's a very likely player to be sort of shown a yellow card in this game.
Yeah, no, that's a great shout, and I'm sure people at home will be interested to get involved in that market anyway. Cool. I mean, that starts us off quite nicely on the Saturday lunchtime. But moving on to one of the weekend's London derbies, we've got Spurs and Fulham. Obviously, all eyes are on their strikers at the moment. I mean, Mitrovic, despite all of the kind of doubts that he was faced with at the start of the season, just seems to have hit the ground running. And he's absolutely smashing it. Do you reckon he can continue that form against Spurs?
Yeah, so like you say, it's a very decent start for Fulham back in the Prem, spearheaded by the Mitrovic goals. I think he's got 5 and 5 for them.
Yeah,
which is a great start for him. Obviously, on paper this looks like a tough game away at Tottenham, who themselves have had a pretty good start to the season. I do just worry with Fulham that if the Mitrovic goals do start to dry up, then they haven't got much else up top. I think as much as I love Bobby Reid, former Bristol City player, he's not a prolific scorer in the Premier League. So for Fulham, while Mitrovic is firing, then they should look to make the most of it.
Yeah, I agree, and Fulham fans will be begging that form continues. And I mean, it's showing no sign of drying up. But on the other side, then Kane as well. I mean, he's no stranger to a goal or two. I think he scored 3 already this season, and it is just continuing to hunt down Shearer's record. I guess the question I wanted to ask you then is, I mean, how long do you think it will be till he beats Shearer's record, or I don't know. Do you think it's going to happen, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they obviously, Fulham are relying on Mitrovic. Spurs are reliant on the Harry Kane goals, but
Mhm.
he is a proven goal scorer in the Prem, over multiple seasons now. Unless he gets injured, you just would expect him to get 20 plus goals a season without fail. Obviously, yeah, like you said, there was talk about him breaking the Alan Shearer record for Premier League goals. I
Yeah.
think he probably does do it, barring he doesn't get any major injuries. I mean, he's only 29 years old, so he's still got plenty of years left playing at the top level. I think he's currently on. I think he got the goals recently. So he's on 187 goals for the season now, and he's
Yeah.
got to get to 261 to beat the record. So I think that's around 74 goals he's got to get. So I mean, it's going to take him 3 or 4 seasons to do it. But yeah, I think he does it. Barring any sort of major injuries that keep him out for sort of any length of time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because, as you said, he's close, but he's not that close. So it could run quite tight towards the end. And as you say, I mean, if he can avoid injury, you're probably on the side that he does do it. But I don't know if he gets a knock and he's out for a season. Yeah, it's just cutting it fine.
Yeah, we've just seen with the likes of Messi and Ronaldo that and Zlatan that these top strikers, they can keep playing until they're 34, 35 and
Yeah.
it's still at the top level. So potentially he's got another 5 years to try and break that record. So yeah, I'm not sure what I think I saw some prices recently. I think he's about even money to do it. So it is one of those. It's sort of an either or
Yeah.
sort of price. And yeah, as I said, it probably just does come down to injuries. If he can keep clear of any major injuries, then he probably does it. But if he gets something that keeps him out for 6 months or a whole season, then yeah, maybe not.
Sure. Well, one to watch anyway. Moving on then to another London derbies, Chelsea and West Ham. I mean, the first question I want to ask is what is going on at Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really interesting game this weekend, and I think it probably comes at the right time for Chelsea, is that they sort of need to try and kickstart their season here.
Yeah.
I mean, the season started fairly well for them. They dominated Everton on the opening game of the season 1-0. They're then 2-1 up against Tottenham, but Harry Kane scores at the 97th minute, and it's just sort of gone downhill from then. I mean, they got taken apart by Leeds in the next game 3-0. I think they then beat Leicester, but despite having Gallagher sent off early doors in that game, and then disaster midweek away to Southampton. I mean, I actually saw the second half of that Southampton game, and Chelsea were terrible. I mean, they barely forced a corner. They barely had a shot on target in the second half. I know Sterling has scored a couple of goals for them, but Havertz has looked completely off the pace from what I've seen. And I think they've only really got Broja to come on. They haven't really got much options up front. It's probably quite ironic on that night that while Chelsea was struggling to score against Southampton, Timo Werner was banging in a hat trick for Leipzig in the German Cup.
Yeah.
Then it just was sort of say quite ironic there. I know obviously that they're trying to bring in Aubameyang. I was reading this morning, but then obviously Aubameyang's been caught up in this robbery drama, so I'm not sure if that deal was going to go through. I know they've signed Fofana as well.
Mm-hmm.
From Leicester, so that on the face of that's a good signing, but it just feels like they need more from some of their sort of more experienced players, such as Mason Mount in midfield, in the likes of Koulibaly in Silva as well. But yeah, not a great start for Chelsea, but I think this is a good game for them to try and sort of kickstart their season, put in a good performance and get 3 points there.
Yeah, I find it really hard to agree with you. And you mentioned Mason Mount there, and I mean, I've had him in my fantasy team since the start, and he's done absolutely nothing so far this season. He's got to be the first to go this week. And you're right as well with Havertz. I don't know whether it's just because he's struggling to fit into Tuchel's sort of formation and things, but again, it's really off the pace and so many question marks. And you think, if they can't sign a new striker, I mean, today,
Yeah.
they have to rely on Sterling's goals all season. I mean, that can't last. That can't last. But I mean, for now, it's just about clinging on. But
Yeah.
it could be real dark times for Chelsea if they don't improve quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not been a great start for West Ham either. I think they've had one win in their opening sort of 4 games. They've obviously just signed this Paqueta from Lyon for 50 million, so they would be hoping he improved things for them. But I think this does look like a home win for Chelsea, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And then the last game I wanted to preview then is United and Arsenal, which again looks like quite a good matchup. Arsenal are obviously 100% at the moment and flying, but United will be their first challenge. And since their Liverpool win, they've looked pretty handy too. So what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think, as you say, maybe saving the best until last with this game. We've got a resurgent Man United taking on the informed Arsenal. Hard to know who should be favourites for this game, really. I think, and there's probably not that much in it. I do think it is taking a bit of a leap of faith to sort of suggest that Man United have turned the corner after just those two good performances. I mean, it's not hard for me to remember the Brighton and Brentford games at the start of the season, where they were awful. I know they've obviously dropped Maguire and Ronaldo since then in things they've looked up, but yeah, you sort of do get the impression this is going to be a really interesting game to watch. And I think a draw is probably about the right result between them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super even matchup in my head, despite, Arsenal, well, being in great form at the moment. But it does seem that Ten Hag, and I mean, it's the same applies for Arteta too. It feels like both managers have got their style of play almost sorted now. And it'll be interesting to see how, if they both do follow what they have all season, how they'll match up. And, if United's young top line can break through Arsenal's defence and so on. I mean, I'm really excited for it. And I think you're right, that will be the pick of the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of, obviously there's talk of Arsenal trying to go unbeaten during the Premier League season again. I mean, it's a huge price to happen. I think I don't actually think we've currently got any odds on it on our website, but I've seen some prices out there, with other bookmakers, and I think I last saw they were 500 to 1 was the price I saw. That was before last night's game. I mean, they were quite short to beat Villa anyway last night, so it's probably a similar price still. But yeah, does seem very unlikely it's going to happen, but I'm sure Arsenal fans will be latching onto that price.
Yeah, I think so. It is going to be very interesting because it just takes one loss on Sunday and the wheels could easily fall off. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it all goes. And then the last one I wanted to talk about then, I mean, it's impossible to chat about the Premier League and not mention him, is the start for Haaland. I mean, he's absolutely on fire. And I wanted to talk about the spreads individual goals market actually, because I think the midpoint of that market is around 32 at the moment, which is nuts, and would obviously see him break Kevin Phillips' record of most goals in his first season, which I think he got 30. I mean, just how good do you think Haaland is, and how many can he score?
Yeah, I mean, he's an absolute beast. I mean, we discussed him in the previous video, and I think pre-season we quoted him for around 22 goals. I mean, he's on 9 already, and the season's barely started. I mean, back-to-back hat-tricks. He just looks like the ultimate poacher. There's all this talk about he only touches the ball 6 or 7 times in a game of football, but it doesn't matter when he's banging in hat-tricks every week. I say our current midpoint for Premier League goals for Haaland is around 32, 33. And, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes higher, if it gets up to 35, 36 with the way he's playing. You just wonder whether the Pep rotation might come in at some point. So, he sort of does get rotated, and we've seen Julian Alvarez is capable of scoring. So I guess Pep's got an option up front. But they just look so strong, Man City. And as we discussed earlier, they're able to sub Haaland last night, but they bring on De Bruyne sort of thing. So it's like just huge strength in depth.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, they're just looking formidable, really. And I guess we talk about the price to go unbeaten all season. I mean, City's got to be the banker there if anyone's going to do it in the Premier League, because as you say, the depth is just it's monumental, and they don't really look like they've got any flaws at the moment, which for fans of any other team in the Premier League is really hard to hear. But yeah, they're just looking superb.
Yeah.
Cool. All right then. Well, I think that's the weekend pretty much previewed. So thanks very much for your time, Nev. And I just wanted to remember everyone at home that if you are gambling with us, please do so responsibly. But just enjoy all of these fixtures. I mean, it's a great weekend, and I'm sure you will. But thanks again, Nev, and see you soon, guys.